What up, man? I'm DD, and this is DD Got a Point, one of the newest yet fastest growing YouTube channels on the platform. The goal is to be up 10,000 subscribers by next month, 50,000 subscribers by the summertime, and 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Yes, you heard me correctly. It is a reality, but it is only a reality if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're rocking with the video. Thank you all so much for your help. Now let's get into the video. All right, welcome back to another episode of DD Got a Point. I want to first and foremost start off by saying I apologize for the short delay in posting. I actually just spent the last 24 hours driving across 3 states to attend J. Cole's Dreamville Festival, the last Dreamville Festival, just to get 12 hours into the drive to find out that my ticket is no longer available. It's quite literally what the ticket provider told me. So I literally pulled over and spent the next 10 hours trying to figure out what went wrong, how to get another ticket, how to make this right, explaining to them that I had driven 12 hours, didn't make a difference, couldn't find a resolution. So I literally had to drive 12 hours back for basically a pointless trip. But we're back. It is what it is. Happy to talk about today's situation. But speaking of wasting money and time, for those of you that's rocking with the content on this channel, I do ask if you're in a position to do so, please hit that join button right below to become a member of the channel. It financially will help me on the work that we're doing over here. But if you're not in a position to do so, please don't feel compelled to do something that you can't afford to do. But it will help and it will push the channel a long ways as we are a new, small, growing channel. Thank you. Now let's talk about Ja Morant. Ja Morant, I actually tweeted this the other day while I was on the road. I said, somebody had a tweet that went viral that says, I'm uncomfortable with the way the NBA is handling Ja Morant. And I responded and I said, why? Ja Morant was seen on camera multiple times recklessly flaunting a pistol, listening to violent music. Not a crime, but could be in violation of the NBA policy. When you work for someone, they set the rules, not us. These other guys that do similar celebrations, which by the way are not only white players, not only have that history. By the way, Ja Morant did it again immediately after receiving a warning. Make that make sense. Context matters. Not always about race and racism. Man is making millions of dollars per year, hundreds of thousands per game, but the folks running the league is racist towards him though. So let me put this into better perspective so you and I, the common man, can understand. We're working for a company, but not only are we working for a company, we're one of the top performers at the company. So that means more influence, more eyes are on us, more responsibility. And with more responsibility comes more power. With more power comes more responsibility. We know how this works.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
At some point while working for this company, we decide to go to a private facility and recklessly brandish a firearm on camera. Aside from the fact that from a legal perspective, you could quite literally be charged with aggravated assault or reckless endangerment. But from an NBA policy perspective, you're doing something that's detrimental to the company. So they suspend you for, I believe, like 5 games. 2 months later, you're once again seen on camera flashing a gun recklessly in a vehicle, which resulted in a 25-game suspension. So you now, as Ja Morant, have a reputation of being this person to listen to violent music that's talking about unaliving other people while recklessly flashing a pistol on social media, just like how the rappers do, who find themselves in these legal situations. You're not making a great image for yourself. Here we are in 2025. You hit a 3-pointer, I believe, against the Warriors, and your celebration is to do a pow-pow celebration towards their bench. The NBA doesn't fine you. They don't publicly ridicule you. They give you a warning. After giving you a warning, you not only did it again, but you did it again the very next game. It was as if you're trying to taunt them. For those of you who don't know, Ja Morant literally makes about $36 million. That's about $447,000 per game. I'm going to say that again. Ja Morant makes about $447,000 per game. That's more money than most Americans will see in 5 years. He's making that in one night. If you don't like something, don't work for the company. It's within the NBA's policy for it to be up to their discretion to decide what's detrimental to their business or not. You have to remember, there are women and families and children that attend these basketball games. And if you have created a reputation for yourself as the star player, so if you've missed 30 games related to something, the fans are going to figure out pretty fast why you got suspended. They're going to realize that you have a reputation for doing certain things. And if you are seen once again on camera doing games, celebrating in a way that could be related to the very thing you got suspended for, it is 100% up to the NBA to decide to punish you for it. You work for them, not the other way around. Many people on social media is calling this racism. This man makes millions of dollars a year, $500,000 a game, but the people he's working for is racist? It's not racism. It's justified discrimination. There's a difference. I'm going to say it again. It's not racism. It's justified discrimination. Here's somebody tweeted and said, I know what the difference is. And I responded. I said, the difference is Ja Morant was seen on camera multiple times, recklessly flaunting a pistol, listening to violent music. Like, it's really not that hard of a concept to be able to grasp. But people always want to be a victim. And in this post, you'll notice that he used a white player from the Warriors to compare to Ja Morant's celebration. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't talk about all the other black players in the NBA that has the same celebration as Ja Morant that do not receive warnings and suspensions or fines. You know why? Because if they did that, they wouldn't be able to play the race card. Those players weren't suspended either. And they're also black Americans. So why weren't they suspended? If you're arguing racism, then that means all black players or players of color should receive the same treatment as other players that's been disciplined for this, right? No, because those players do not have the history that Ja Morant. You know who Ja Morant reminds me of? He reminds me of like a worser version of what Allen Iverson was early on. And let me explain, because Allen Iverson is more loved now, but Ja Morant don't have the authenticity. He don't have the popularity. He don't have the influence. He didn't change the game that Allen Iverson did. He's like a much more immature version of what Allen Iverson was early on. You know, with the do-rags and the cornrows. Sure, you can make a much more valid argument that that was probably more related to racism. But even then, the NBA would have a great case to say, hey, you signed our contracts and we get to decide what the image of our players will be if you work for us. If you don't like it, you can quit. But Ja Morant won't quit. Allen Iverson wasn't going to quit. They're going to do what you see both of them do. They're going to change their ways if you're working for a company. And this is one of the many reasons why from the jump I was saying I'm just not a big Ja Morant guy. Doesn't mean I don't think he's talented. Doesn't mean I don't like his game. It just, when I get on television and they've had these debates about who's next up, who's the future face of the league. And the weirdest thing, this is before I created this channel, so I didn't really have a platform or an audience to be able to speak to that will be able to give me their opinions on this. But over the past 2 years when they've had this conversation, I'm like, why is Ja Morant always one of the names they give? Just because you're talented doesn't mean that you can be a future face of the league.
I do. I think, but Skip, I think they both have a great shot. I think both have a ton of talent, and I think their personality, Skip, that's what it is. Because it's just not the best player. Everybody thinks, well, the best player is going to, no. You got to have, there was something about LeBron, even though both of these guys, Skip, are in very small markets. Maybe LeBron James is the outlier that we'll never see another face of the NBA, Skip, from such a small market. But, Skip, I think these two guys, as immensely talented as they are, with the personality.
But at the end of the day, when I look at Ja, we were talking about him, you know, just about a year and a half ago of possibly being the face of the league. That has gone out the window.
Who got suspended? They took his shoe off. Ja. They got 1,000 emails, and they had to put it back in, and it sold out. Who was that guy?
Kyrie Irving. Demetrius Jamal Morant.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. That was the person that was next in line. He had a fall.
That's a fact.
All they're doing is waiting for him to clean up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be him because the person who controls the kids controls the market. No.
Lil Wayne said that Ja Morant should be the new face of the NBA after LeBron retires. Agree or disagree?
He would have that.
I'm like, am I seeing things, hearing things, or are we not living in a league where there's Luka Doncic, which is light years? He's super young too. Light years better than Ja Morant. He's already competing for championships. Ja Morant isn't there yet. You have players like Victor Wembanyama, which by the way is younger than Ja Morant, but within the next 2 or 3 years will be the face of the league. You have players like Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, which we're going to get to him too, probably in another video, because I don't like the whole baby mama situation that's happened with him, and people are defending him, and I don't like that either. But they always bring up Ja Morant. And this is when I knew early on that the NBA, or at least a lot of its players, have a nationalist problem. And I only call it a problem because if you have players that are your teammates and your opponents, depending on what teams you're on, then y'all are all in this pool together. But it seems to me that they're quick to jump over these international players to try to make somebody that's from America the face of the league. Like, how is Ja Morant at the top of the conversation for face of the league over Luka Doncic? You know what I mean? Over Victor Wembanyama. You can make the argument right now that, yes, we know Victor Wembanyama is out, but Victor Wembanyama is already making and having a greater impact on the game than Ja Morant has already. God forbid what's going to happen in 2 years. Jason Tatum, which I know is from America, but Jason Tatum, SGA. Ja Morant is not better than SGA. which, by the way, a video is coming on SGA soon as well. You got Luka, you got SGA. Nikola Jokic, sure, yes, he's much older, but he's only 5 years old. And I say only because 5 years isn't that big of a difference when you look at the game and how advanced, technology and medicine is today. Look at LeBron. LeBron is still running. Look at Steph. Look at KD. If they take care of their bodies, 5 years isn't going to make that big of a difference. So my ultimate point is, I see Nikola Jokic dominating for the next 3 to 4 years, easy. Ja Morant is going to be pushing 8, 9 years in the league at that point. I would even go as far to say Jalen Green from the Rockets. Jalen Green is 2 years younger than Ja Morant, but Jalen Green is a stud, bro. And y'all can keep underestimating that guy. Watch him, especially if he continues to play under Ime Udoka and that development continues to grow. Jalen Green is going to be a top 10, who knows, maybe even a top 5 player. He just has to become more disciplined. But the skill set is there. The potential is there. But one of the biggest reasons why I just never could understand, I'm like, what do y'all see? Ja Morant is an incredible talent, yes. But outside of the incredible dunks, he's had some game winners. Outside of that, I'm not seeing what you all see. He's always injured. I'm not knocking a player for being injured. But we have to see some sort of consistency and see that the player can be durable long enough to be having him in these future face of the league conversations. Ja Morant has been injured a lot. His off-the-court activity has been reckless, and that's extremely important. He hasn't really won anything. That's probably one of the biggest things. I'm like, he doesn't even have to win the championship by this point. He's a young player. But man, come on, bro. You got to have made some noise. You've had the defensive player on the year on your team. Nobody's really threatened by the Memphis Grizzlies. You know what I mean? Like, for you all to be put this dude in such high praise, I just don't see it. And then we have this behavior here. This reckless behavior. And the sad part is his dad attends a lot of these games. T. Morant, you have to, like, I wondered at the time when the first situation happened a year and a half ago, what kind of conversations was being had between Ja and his dad. But I really wondered that now. When you got T. Morant and Shannon Sharp getting into it in the games, I just wonder what Ja Morant's authority figures or the people he look up to in his life, I wonder what that dynamic looks like in real life. Because it doesn't seem to me that Ja Morant is actually learning his lesson. And I think people are going to look at it and chalk it up to immaturity, when I think it's much more than just immaturity. I think Ja Morant feels that he can do whatever he wants and the consequences aren't that big of a deal. It's like, bro, you're missing out on games. You're letting yourself down. You're letting your teammates down. You're letting your fans down. Aren't you trying to win? Aren't you trying to compete? You can't do that when you're not playing games. That's all I'm saying. My biggest thing is I wanted to refute these people who, especially a lot of these black Americans that annoyed the F out of me, bro, that's quick to hop on social media and scream racism. Racism, racism, racism. So this man can do something that's against the policy or against something that's up to the company's discretion. It's a fine print. He signed the contract. He's making more money than we'll ever see in life. So I think when a person is paying you that much, yes, sure, you are part of the reason they're making that much money. But when it's a reciprocal relationship, they have to say so. When you sign a contract, it's up to their discretion to decide what's appropriate and what's not. And if you have a reputation of endorsing this violent lifestyle, being that you're recklessly brandishing a firearm with these lyrics playing in the background, all of that stuff is important. They can decide if what you're doing is inappropriate. Now, the best argument I saw is from Jay Williams. He said, I understand there's context around Ja Morant, but I can't shake this thought. We live in a country obsessed with guns, glorified in film, music, and even marketing. So when an NBA player mimics that energy on the court, we're outraged. You can't profit from the image and punish the imitation. I see where he's coming from with that. Here's the problem. Is the NBA profiting from films that mimics obsession with guns? I don't think they are. We live in a society and a culture that glorifies these things, including gangbanging, including all the things that NBA YoungBoy represents. These people are praised in our society. Jay Williams, I 100% agree. But that doesn't apply to the NBA. So this tweet really just needs to be directed to the fans. It doesn't need to be directed to the NBA. So that's really my 2 cents. I'm just over Ja Morant's recklessness. I'm not a big fan of him as I don't know him as a person, but the way he comes off, I understand a lot of these folks have egos and stuff. They've made it to the NBA. They're the best basketball players in the world. But Ja Morant just seems to have a special kind of arrogance to me. He behaves as if he's accomplished more than what he's already accomplished in the league. I think a lot of these posters and dunks and his fearless behavior when he's on the court has catapulted his ego and his pride to a whole nother level that I think is going to keep him in the top 15 players in the league, probably top 5 talents. But as far as the players and the level and the amount they're going to win, I think Ja Morant, if he keeps this up, is going to be one of those players like an Allen Iverson that competes at a high level. He's never going to win a championship. He's going to have all these woulda, coulda, shouldas throughout his career, and nobody's gonna care at some point. Y'all hop in the comment section. Y'all give me y'all thoughts. As always, I'm Demetrius. I go by DD. That's all for this one, man. Until next time. Peace. Oh, yeah. DD got a point.